There is a particular kind of damage that leaves no visible marks, no raised voices, no broken dishes, no single moment you can name. You walk away from the conversation feeling as though something has been quietly taken from you. Your chest is tight. Your thoughts spin in slow, exhausting circles. You replay every exchange, scanning for the wound, and cannot quite find it. Only the ache remains, hollowed out and persistent. That hollowed out feeling, like someone reached inside and turned your volume down, like you are somehow less than you were an hour ago, is not imaginary. It has a name, a structure, and a mechanism. Once you understand how it actually works, you will never be as vulnerable to it again. What follows is not a collection of affirmations or a feel-good checklist. It is a serious look at the mechanics of what has been happening to you. This is not a guide for becoming cold. It is not permission to be cruel, and certainly not instructions for becoming the very thing you are trying to escape. It is an honest, detailed examination of how toxic behavior functions at a psychological level, and the precise strategies that allow you to protect yourself. Because being kind to the wrong person is not a virtue. It is a vulnerability. Understanding the difference is where real freedom begins. Most people make the same fundamental mistake when they first encounter someone who operates this way. They assume the relationship follows the same rules as all others. They believe that if they explain their feelings clearly enough, the other person will understand and adjust their behavior accordingly. They assume that patience, warmth, and demonstrated goodwill will eventually be met in kind. That assumption is the natural extension of emotional health. But it is also the foundation of all the suffering that follows, because it keeps you investing more deeply in a dynamic structured to drain you. A toxic person does not experience connection the way you do, where you see vulnerability. They see an opening to exploit rather than a bridge to cross. You offer trust, they store leverage, where you see genuine understanding. They are quietly scanning for your pressure points. Where you hope your honesty will be honored, they are filing it away for future use. This is not villainy. It is an operating system built over years of fear. Most of them are not consciously calculating their every move. The behavior is deeply encoded, built over years of their own unresolved damage. Trying to explain your feelings to someone running that system is not a communication problem. It is a compatibility problem. You are trying to install the wrong software. No amount of eloquence, patience, or clarity will bridge that gap. The first real shift is this: stop trying to solve it by changing yourself. Stop shrinking. Stop over-explaining. Stop apologizing for things that did not require an apology. Stop performing endless goodwill for people who already know your value. They already know your value. It is precisely why they keep returning. The moment you understand that, you have already moved forward significantly. At the core of nearly every toxic behavior pattern is fear. Not simple danger, but a slower terror. The fear of irrelevance, of not mattering to anyone at all. The way a person operating from that fear manages it is by ensuring they matter to you specifically. They need consistent power over your emotional state. If they can unsettle your entire afternoon with a single offhand comment, they must be significant. Your reaction is their proof of existence in the world. Once you see that mechanism clearly, the strategy becomes almost obvious. If your reaction is the resource being mined, withholding it is your most powerful move. This is harder than it sounds, and it requires a particular kind of discipline. The most effective thing you can do is become genuinely unreadable to them. Not cold, not performatively indifferent, but actually disciplined in what you allow your face, body, and words to reveal. Think of a skilled card player. They show nothing regardless of the hand they hold, whether the cards are terrible or extraordinary. That neutrality is not passivity. It is cultivated discipline functioning as armor. Toxic people are unusually skilled at reading emotional signals because their entire social survival has depended on developing that skill over many years. They probe and test, often subtly and with plausible deniability, looking for the sore spots, the insecurities, the topics that make you flinch. If they know you are sensitive about professional performance, they will question your competence publicly. If they know you fear abandonment, they will weaponize silence. If they know you crave approval, they will keep it just out of reach. Your defense is to give them nothing to calibrate against. There is a technique in psychology called the gray rock method. The premise is straightforward. You become unremarkable, emotionally flat, genuinely neutral. Short answers, no visible investment, no heated engagement. You are not defeated. You are deliberately depriving them of the fuel they came to collect. When something provocative is said, your instinct will be to defend yourself. That instinct is entirely human and entirely counterproductive in this context. The moment you defend yourself, you have confirmed the attack found its target. You have shown them the button. You have handed them the map. Consider a concrete example. You are in a meeting at work. A colleague makes a pointed comment designed to make you look defensive or rattled in front of everyone. Something like, well, some of us have actually been here all week doing the real work. He is baiting you. He wants a reaction. He needs a reaction. The untrained response is to justify yourself immediately, to explain your schedule, to clarify your contributions. And now the conversation is no longer about the agenda. It is about you scrambling to recover your standing in front of your peers. The trained response is fundamentally different and far more effective. You look at him. You pause for about 3 seconds, which feels like an eternity in a quiet room. Then you say, with almost no emotion, "Interesting point." And you turn back to what you were doing. You denied him the reaction he came for. You made his comment look small by refusing to treat it as worthy. Everyone in the room felt the shift. The key is that the neutrality must be genuine. People can feel the difference between suppressed anger and a person who is actually unbothered. Work toward the actual calm. Every piece of personal information you share with a toxic person is a potential weapon stored for later use. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition based on what these dynamics consistently produce. When you confide that you are struggling financially, that detail does not disappear into goodwill. It waits. It surfaces months later in a comment made in front of other people, referencing what you cannot afford or what you have been going through. When you share that things at home are difficult, that information gets filed away not out of care for you, but out of an instinct for utility. Knowledge is leverage. Leverage is the currency of every relationship they navigate. The practical response to this is strategic vagueness. Not rudeness, not coldness, just deliberate economy. When someone operating this way asks how you are doing, you can be warm and genuinely brief, keeping busy. A lot going on, but working through it. How about you? You have been friendly. You have revealed nothing. You have redirected the spotlight toward them, which toxic people often welcome because they are comfortable talking about themselves. While they are talking, you are listening, learning, and entirely safe. This principle extends into digital life in equally important ways. In an era that rewards broadcasting every experience and struggle, authentic details shared publicly become a precise map for anyone looking to exploit them. Posting about emotional difficulty signals vulnerability and availability to be drawn back into cycles of influence. Posting about achievement signals exactly what to aim for next. This is not about hiding who you are. It is about being intentional with who receives access to the real you. Privacy is dignity. Dignity is protection. When toxic people notice you becoming less forthcoming, they will push back. They will tell you that you have been so distant lately that you never share anything anymore. Recognize exactly what that is. An attempt to guilt you back into the openness they were exploiting. You can respond warmly without conceding anything real. Something like, "I have just had a lot on my plate. Tell me what is going on with you." Redirect. Stay warm, stay vague. You are not being dishonest. You are choosing what to share and with whom, which is what thoughtful people have always done. There is a technique called fogging that sounds counterintuitive. Instead of arguing with a toxic person, you agree with just enough of what they say to remove their capacity to escalate. This is disarmament through agreement. When someone attacks you verbally, they are expecting resistance. They have loaded the conflict, and they are waiting for you to meet them inside it. What if you stepped off the battlefield entirely? Not by running, not by surrendering, just by removing the friction they need to keep fighting. A controlling parent says you never call, you never visit, you clearly do not care about this family. The natural impulse is to defend yourself by enumerating every visit. That defense becomes an argument within 30 seconds, and it is an argument you will not win because they are not actually interested in facts. They want the fight. The fogging response sounds like this: "You are right. I probably have not called as often as you would like," and then you stop completely. Nothing more follows. You do not apologize for your entire existence. You do not make promises about the future. You have agreed with the surface without validating the premise beneath it. The toxic person arrives with all their aggression prepared and finds no resistance to push against. The aggression has nowhere to go but back at them. Try another version. Someone is gaslighting you and says, "You are being completely irrational right now." The defensive response invites escalation every time. Fogging response is simply, "I can see why it might look that way." Followed by silence. You have acknowledged their perception without granting it the status of fact. You have left them with absolutely nothing to grab onto. Your ego will resist this approach fiercely, because your ego wants justice, wants vindication, wants to be right. Ask yourself honestly how many arguments you have won with a toxic person. Real wins, where they came back and said sincerely, "You were right, and I was wrong." It almost never happens because they do not argue to discover truth. They argue to dominate. Give them the small surface victory. Protect your peace. Go build the life they told you that you are not capable of having. Availability has a price that most people never consciously calculate. When you are always present, always responsive, you teach people that access to you costs nothing at all. Things that cost nothing tend to be treated accordingly. The toxic person has built their entire approach around expecting unlimited access to your time and energy. When you begin to withdraw that access, even gradually, it disrupts everything they assumed they understood about how things work between you. In situations where complete removal is not immediately possible, you can practice emotional absence and introduce scarcity into the dynamic progressively. Stop returning every message within minutes. Stop picking up on the first ring. Stop attending every gathering purely out of obligation. These are information about what you make available. When they push back and ask what is going on with you, your answer can be honest and brief. "I have just had a lot going on. I have been focused on some personal things." What you are doing over time is recalibrating the entire relationship through your actions, not through any dramatic declaration. You are demonstrating that access to you must be earned. You are demonstrating that access to you is not guaranteed, that it must be earned, and that it can be withdrawn. Independence is the structural foundation beneath everything. Financial independence, emotional independence, social independence. The more you genuinely need a toxic person, the more leverage they hold over you without effort. Building your own foundation separate from and outside the reach of that toxic dynamic is not merely self-improvement. It is a strategic act of liberation from its structure. Every skill you develop, every friendship you cultivate in spaces they do not control, every professional goal you reach, every dollar you set aside, all of it reduces their hold quietly. All of it is a form of armor. And when you have built enough of your own life that their opinion is genuinely irrelevant, something real shifts permanently. The provocations stop landing. The guilt trips slide off. Not because you have become cold or closed, but because you have grown into someone with enough foundation to hold steady. That is real freedom. Not the performed version, not the temporary version, but the genuine and durable article built from consistent effort over time. There are moments where defense and distance are not sufficient. Sometimes a toxic person escalates to actively damaging your reputation, professional standing, or safety. And strategic withdrawal no longer serves you. In those moments, you need to act with precision. This does not mean emotional confrontation or public scenes. It means being surgical and deliberate. When someone takes a shot at you in public disguised as humor or casual observation, do not ignore it. Do not react visibly. Stop everything. Look at them with calm, direct curiosity and ask them to explain exactly what they meant. "Can you tell me more about what you mean by that?" The room goes quiet. Now they must either own the implication out loud, which forces accountability, or retreat and claim they were joking, which you can then address. You can say something like, "I just wanted to make sure I understood," and then let the silence sit there, heavy and effective, filling every corner of the space. Either way, you have made the invisible visible. You have made it socially costly to take that kind of shot at you, and they will remember how this last attempt played out. In professional or legal situations, documentation is among your most powerful resources. After every significant conversation with someone who has shown manipulative patterns, send a follow-up email. Following up on our conversation today, just confirming these 3 points were discussed. Neutral, clear, dated. Toxic people tend to be skilled in the ambiguity of verbal communication, where nothing is documented and their version of events can be presented later as the only version. The moment everything is on record, that advantage is gone completely. If they try to push everything back onto phone calls to avoid the written record, you simply reply that you missed their call and ask them to send whatever they needed by email. Whatever action you decide to take when the situation genuinely requires it, take it decisively. Half measures backfire consistently. If you make a small move and then retreat, you have not weakened them. You have shown them a crack in your composure without following through, and that crack will be exploited. If you are going to file the report, file it decisively and completely. If you are going to have the conversation with HR, have it. Do not announce it. Do not threaten it. Just do it cleanly without drama or escalation or warning. When a toxic person loses control of you, they often move the conflict to a different theater, other people's perception of you. They will tell mutual friends you have become unstable. They will position themselves as the patient victim of your cruelty and coldness to colleagues who have not witnessed the actual dynamic between you. They are skilled at narrative, and the story they are now telling casts you clearly as the villain. This is designed to activate something primal and destabilizing. Social exclusion triggers deep fear in most people, and toxic people understand that and use it deliberately to destabilize the people they target. The response is counterintuitive. You do not address it directly. You do not chase the rumors or try to correct the record individually with every person who might have heard something. That approach looks frantic and defensive, and it gives the story oxygen it would not otherwise have. Instead, you build what might be called a reputation fortress. You become so consistently and undeniably yourself in every interaction that the narrative simply does not hold together for anyone who actually knows you well. If someone tells your colleague that you are a difficult, unstable person, but that colleague has experienced only calm professional engagement from you, they will question the source. Someone brings a piece of that gossip to you directly, do not take the bait. Try something like, "That is too bad. I actually have a lot of respect for that person. I hope they are doing well." And then pause and move the conversation somewhere else entirely. That response is disarming. You have not dismissed the claim with drama. You have not launched a counter-narrative that now requires monitoring. You have responded with apparent genuine goodwill and immediately moved on without looking back. The person relaying the information now has nothing remarkable to report back, and you have demonstrated purely through contrast exactly what kind of person you are to those watching. Over time, toxic people tend to reveal themselves without any help from you. The patterns become visible to others. The stories stop adding up. The mask slips eventually. At a moment they did not choose. Your only job is to continue being who you are, reliably, and without performance, and to be patient enough to let consistency speak. There are relationships so fundamentally corrosive that no strategy is sufficient, and the only real answer is to leave entirely without looking backward. When that moment comes, most people execute the exit badly. They write the long letter. They prepare the final conversation where they say everything they have been holding. They believe that if they can make the other person truly understand the damage done, some acknowledgement will arrive, and that acknowledgement will bring closure. But a person who has spent years prioritizing control over genuine connection is not going to have a transformational moment because you delivered a clear and honest account. They will not give you the acknowledgement you are looking for. What they will do is use that final conversation as one more opportunity to reframe and manipulate. Reintroduce enough doubt that you begin second-guessing your own decision all over again. The cleanest exit is a quiet one that denies them any closing scene. When you are certain, you simply begin to disappear. Less engagement, less response, less presence, creating distance without drama, gradually and without announcement. And then one day, you stop entirely. You block the number if you need to. You redirect your feeds and your attention and your energy toward what actually matters. You do not owe anyone a farewell that gives them ammunition to pull you back. They will find the silence maddening and will try to reach you through other channels, because they need either to have won or to have been wronged, and either outcome satisfies them as long as they get the closing scene to perform their narrative. Silence denies them that, and there is something genuinely powerful about choosing your peace over their need for a performance that never serves you. After is the whole point. Everything covered here leads to this. The goal was never to win against them. Real winning does not look like getting back at someone. It looks like forgetting about them while you build something extraordinary. Get healthier, develop capabilities you set aside, pursue your ambitions without qualifying them for anyone. Find people who meet your openness with respect rather than exploitation. Invest in yourself in every dimension that was being neglected during that period. Here is something worth sitting with. The version of you that was being slowly drained in that relationship was not the real you waiting to emerge. The real you is what has been waiting underneath all of it, quietly, for enough room to actually breathe. That is who you are building toward now. Not to display as evidence of what they missed, not to perform your recovery for anyone's benefit, but because you deserve a life that actually fits who you are. Somewhere along the way, you began believing the diminished version of yourself that they consistently reflected back at you. That version was never accurate. You were never too sensitive. You were never too much. You were never the problem that required managing. You extended trust to someone unequipped to honor it. That is a lesson, and now you have it. When a conversation turns strategic and clinical, it can begin to feel as though we are turning human connection into a chess match. That is not the aim here. The aim is the opposite. The goal is to protect the warmth in you, your capacity for genuine vulnerability and real trust and actual connection. Because all of those things are not weaknesses. They are what make a human life meaningful, and they deserve to be offered to people who will actually honor them. The mistake was never in being warm. The mistake was in being indiscriminate about who received that warmth without considering what they would do with it. Think of a house with no doors. Anyone can walk in, take what they want, and leave a mess without any consequence. The solution is not to demolish the house. The solution is to install a door, a solid one, that you choose to open for the right people. What all of these strategies amount to is building that door carefully. Behind it, you are still entirely yourself, still capable of depth and generosity, still willing to be vulnerable with the people who have actually earned that access. And once you stop spending all of that energy on people who drain it, you will find you have far more of it for the relationships and pursuits that genuinely deserve it. True strength is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to feel everything and still choose your response deliberately. The difference between reacting and acting, between being pulled by every current and choosing your own direction. A person who cannot be hurt is not strong. They are numb. That is a different and lesser thing entirely. A person who can be hurt and still chooses grace, still chooses strategy over impulse, still chooses long-term peace over short-term satisfaction. That person is formidable. That is who you are in the process of becoming, not by hardening, not by closing off, but by becoming more intentional about where you invest your attention and energy, by being selective rather than shut down, by outgrowing people who could not see you clearly, and becoming someone they simply cannot reach anymore. There is a particular quality of silence that follows a real victory in this territory, not the silence of avoidance, not the silence that comes from fear or defeat. The silence of someone who no longer needs to justify their existence to people who were never genuinely interested in understanding it. That silence is yours. It belongs to you. It is entirely within reach. Here is what all of this comes down to. You came here because something in your life has been draining you consistently and quietly. Because someone's presence consistently leaves you smaller than you were before. Because you have spent enough time confused and quietly wounded, wondering what you keep doing wrong. The whole answer is this. You have been playing fair with someone who is not playing the same game. That is it. That is the entire explanation for the confusion. You are not weak. You are not naive. You simply had not been given the vocabulary for what you were experiencing, or the tools to respond to it with precision. Now, you have them. Use them to protect yourself and to build healthier dynamics, not to become the manipulator in someone else's story. The distinction matters. Intention matters. Set your boundaries early and hold them calmly. Choose your words carefully and your silences even more carefully. Invest your trust like it is valuable because it is. Guard your information like it matters because it does. And build the life that has been waiting for you on the other side of all of this work and clarity. If this helped you, share it with someone who needs it. There is always more to learn, more to practice, more to build. Now, go build it. That life is entirely within reach.